Hey everyone, and welcome to Backseat Sports. I'm Josh, that's Caleb, and today we are in full-blown Kool-Aid season. The Nebraska Spring Game just happened, and we have so much to talk about. Probably the most revealing spring game in recent memory, and definitely the most exciting because we had live action. QBs were getting hit, and a real game, offense, defense, both sides of the ball. It was a blast, and we have a lot to go through. Caleb, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. Rhule, one of his big key points that he had been talking about with the Nebraska football team is we just weren't able to finish last season. And he said, one cure for that is just in the spring game, go a full 60 minutes, live football, live hits. And I just really like that philosophy. And it's also giving us, the fans, what we want is the most football we can. And again, some real live game action. And it was fun seeing some of the ones against the ones. And again, just some really good competing out there. So much of the ones. Oh, yeah, it was great. I mean, Sims, we saw him even in the third quarter. I mean, that does not happen in the spring game. You see like Adrian for like one drive, and then that's kind of it. And then, it's time to learn some of the backups and third and fourth strings names and, have those parents have a good time. But no, yeah, we got just a ton of really good football action. And I felt like we learned a lot about this football team. I thought the coaches were competing out there, both the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator, really trying to best each other.
They were trying to best each other, yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, so I think we're going to start on the offensive side of the ball and basically work on both sides. Biggest takeaways and the most revealing aspects and some of the breakout stars of the spring game. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So on the offensive side, what were your thoughts overall on like the schemes and usage and overall first impressions of this offense with Marcus Satterfield?
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like old school Nebraska football with a lot of that I formation. We got January Bonner's the first carry of the game with the fullback, had that nice little nod to Frank Solich. The curse has been lifted. And I mean, we used more of it. Like, it wasn't just a gimmick for that one play. Like, we used it throughout the game. And it looked like it was doing us well. And like, again, we got to see a lot of those running backs and, got to see Gabe Ervin, Anthony Grant, Ramir Johnson all get a lot of touches. And it seems like, they were doing a good job out there competing.
Bonner, he switched positions to tight end. We were wondering how he's going to be used, if he was going to be used at all. And it was kind of shocking how often he was out there as a fullback. And we talked about that a lot with Rhule and Satterfield mentioning how they wanted to use these wing positions with tight ends as hybrids. And I think that was kind of our first look at the fullback usage of a tight end in Janaran Bonner, who can also catch the ball. And I'm sure we're going to even see more of that as time goes on with developments from that formation specifically, or different variations of the I formation. And probably seeing some drawn up plays for Bonner outside of play action and maybe some slip screens, things like that, I think are very plausible to be used in that way. And Satterfield at South Carolina had this type of wing, type of hybrid player in the backfield. And it looks like Bonner might be that guy for him this year.
I think Nebraska football, it's just kind of part of the Big Ten's makeup and DNA. So I just think it's a good thing that we have a position for it. Yeah,
I mean, I would say also with Satterfield, I liked a lot of the pre-snap motions and variety of pro style formations, a mix of, like you said, the fullbacks in there and the shotgun and the single eye. And it seems like a nice hybrid of like that Big Ten Minnesota Iowa style with some of the little bit more spread. It feels like an Ohio State type offense that really does it all. And I really enjoyed it as a whole. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, that motion was great. Again, just them gathering all that information. And we motioned everybody. I mean, tight ends, running, like it was everything. I really enjoyed it. And then again, just trying to find those little advantages that they could find. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I think for the wide receivers, moving on to that in the offense, I think Billy Kemp was, the big
standout
breakout. I mean, we've been hearing a lot about him. We have talked about it in the videos during spring practice. And then we got to see it where he really does look like a really good Division I wide receiver. Shifty, fast, has good hands, could find, the gaps where he needed to. And he was just able to get open. You think of the 2-point conversion. He makes it really easy for Harburg. And again, some of those bigger plays for Sims as well. So I really like what he brought to the table.
It makes sense. I mean, he's now this is his sixth year in college football. I mean, coming from Virginia, he was a starter there and had a lot of production. It seems like he's going to be that reliable slot guy for us this whole year. And he looks slippery out there, a nice route runner. And I mean, he smoked Isaac Gifford a few times in the slot and made some great plays. Obviously, the 2-point conversion was nice as well. And so there's nothing to hate about how Billy Kemp played. And so I think you got to feel a lot more confident in that side of the field with Billy Kemp now in the slot.
Yeah, 100%. Marcus Washington also looked really good as well. He had 3 catches for 42 yards. Again, just somebody else that we're really going to need. Out of like the guys that had stayed, he looked really solid. He looked like the best.
We didn't get to see that much action from the rest of the receivers. So it's like we knew Marcus Washington was going to be reliable and good. And then we knew Billy Kemp was going to be at least solid. And so it's kind of unfortunate that we didn't get to learn too much more about a lot of the other guys, because basically if it wasn't Borkacher making plays for us, basically the quarterbacks couldn't hit anybody else. So it was tough.
Yeah, it was. I mean, when Sims was in, he did a solid job of converting some passes, which we'll talk about.
Solid.
But really nobody else was making any catches. I mean, a lot of it, was just with the running backs. We just saw so much of all of them.
Exactly, the dump offs of those guys. Yeah. So, I mean, do you have any other thoughts on the receiving core as a whole? I mean, we saw a few of those deep shots to like a little bit, but nothing, not much downfield in this game. And that was something that actually Matt Rhule mentioned in the post game, is we didn't execute on some of the big downfield plays that we was hoping that we would this game. Is there any reason that you have for that, or any other thoughts on that specifically?
Well, again, I mean, Jeff Sims threw 10 times and did fine. I mean, it was everybody else. I mean, we know Chuba can't throw. Harburg was actually kind of surprised, where I thought he did have a good long arm, and that was just kind of revealing of some of those deep passes, like his form, just everything just did not look in sync. And so I was kind of disappointed there. I mean, again, the athleticism of, him being able to move around, like that definitely showed. Although it kind of burned us one time on that big sack where he tried to do too much. Instead of was it just a classic Adrian Martinez sophomore year type play? I did not understand that whatsoever. So like I think part of it was just like, we do not have the guys. We don't have the horses.
The takeaway here is all we learned is that this is Jeff Sims and Casey Thompson and maybe Logan Smothers. Outside of that, no one's even worth talking about. Everyone else is terrible. I mean, Purdy was, I think, 6 for 13. I mean, so Jeff Sims went 8 for 10 with 139 yards and had that rushing touchdown. The rest of the quarterbacks went 17 for 41. That's all you got to know. For 84 yards and a pick.
Threw 4 times as much and threw 40% less.
They were horrible. So, I mean, discount everyone else in this room. It's Jeff Sims, it's Casey Thompson, and then the backup to those two will be Logan Smothers. Yeah. So let's specifically talk about Jeff Sims then. And the juice of probably this video is the quarterback battle and learning about Jeff Sims. Thoughts at this point on his performance: 8 of 10, 139 yards, and a rushing touchdown to top it all off. Where are you at with Jeff Sims versus Casey Thompson?
Yeah, for me, it's effortless arm talent. Like it was just so smooth, so easy. It was just effortless out there. It was just so nice. I mean, again, he has a really fast motion. I felt like he picked really good spots. I loved the sideline ball that like didn't even get caught. I thought like he put it in the right spot. Right. Again, just being able to see him, like as a D1 quarterback, you need to be able to just consistently hit both sidelines accurately in those spots, even, and then the distance. Again, he maybe could have put some more air under it, but I also thought the wide receiver jumped a little bit early, just looked a little inexperienced. So again, I just like seeing that he did have some accuracy. I did like seeing those crossing routes, those middle stuff. Obviously the big completion to Borkacher, that just some of that effortless, just arm talent that he has, again, is something so key. And I mean, not even talking about his legs. I mean, that was really what we wanted to see again, was just talent in the passing, because that's kind of been the question mark for him. Right, because we know he's got the leg talent. We've seen the highlight reels of that. But yeah, I mean, he was in the pocket most of the time. That's what I'm saying, bro. He had it looked nice. Confident
feet in the pocket, climbed the pocket, and made some beautiful throws. Basically, he only had one questionable throw, which was downfield to Marcus Washington. It was the pump fake across the middle, and then he threw it deep down the sideline. It was asking for a pick, basically. So that was the one questionable throw. I mean, if you just took away that one play, it'd be a spotless performance, essentially, from Jeff Sims in this game.
I wish I got to see him roll out more. Like on the one time he did, it looked really nice.
That's what I'm saying. The one time it happened, it was beautiful.
Yeah, so I'd like to see that more often. Obviously, again, you don't want to see too much, but I mean, if this is the reps that he's given, like Casey's in for, it's a run for his money. He's gonna have
I mean, like you said,
time.
I mean, again, the release for Jeff Sims is really impressive. The amount of power he's able to generate across the middle and towards the sidelines with his quick release is extremely impressive.
Looks good.
And one of the nicest throws he even made was just that little like quick comeback route from Billy Kemp. When he was, I think we sent 6 at him, and he just immediately got the ball out to Billy Kemp and had like a nice little 8-yard gain. And I'm just like, chef's kiss. That was beautiful. The quick release comes into play there. And if you really slow down and look at his release, I mean, it is genuinely a really quick release.
And
the circular motion in his elbow is beautiful. It's like a really modern quarterback motion. And for him to generate power still with that is extremely impressive.
Yeah. Again, just seeing reading the blitz, being able to find the safe guy, just a super heads up smart play. Again, just things that you want to see. Again, then you look at the touchdown run where just a QB up the middle, and he he breaks 2 tackles. I mean, that's just nice.
I mean, genuinely everything he did was impressive to me. I mean, and then the balance on the touchdown run, beautiful. And then of course, the strike across the middle of Borkercher on the first drive. He had a few nice throws towards the sideline. I mean, basically, when it comes to a spring game performance, a guy couldn't shine more than what Jeff Sims did. And I was on the Casey side up until this point, and I mean, I am tempted to say Jeff Sims might be the starter now because, I mean, again, we saw it even on that play. Perfect example where he spins out, avoids the pressure, and gains like 3 or 4 yards on the run. I mean, Casey Thompson does not have that ability to do that. He doesn't have the quick feet. He's a fine enough runner, and he can get the job done. We saw last year. But again, he has a slower release. He's not as fast on his feet. And if anything, we learned this offensive line is not going to be good again this year. It's going to be okay at best.
That's kind of my point is like, I think the offensive line is going to let Casey down.
That's
like
what
if
I'm saying.
He doesn't get the start, like once we get to fall ball, like our offensive line, I will say this: Ben Scott did look solid. Newly being back in did look again pretty good. Again, heads up. And like I think there is some hope for Piper. We saw as the season progressed last year.
Yeah,
I mean Ben Hart and Cochran still looked really bad. Yeah, you just look back at the tape, and again, you keep hearing the things from the coach. But it's again, insane. Like with what our eyes, with the limited knowledge that we get to see, we don't obviously get to see the play all the time, but they're still getting cooked. I mean, they're getting cooked by true freshman D linemen. Like that just can't happen. You can't get dogged by guys that just showed up on campus. You've been playing against NFL talent in the Big Ten for the last 3-4 years, and you can't just own these guys.
Yeah, it's insane, bro. I mean, yeah, obviously
they're so off balance. Their footwork sucks.
There were a handful of the O-linemen missing in this game, and so you'd assume they'll perform better as the year goes along. Not to mention they're probably gassed considering how many snaps they played in this. I do like spring game. I mean, they're getting worked.
They're gonna need to eat a lot of calories for sure.
For a spring game, they're getting worked. But yeah, I mean, it was an ugly performance from the offensive line. There was a few nice running plays there where you felt like, okay.
Yeah.
But we always knew that. I mean, we knew that Corcoran and Ben Hart were passable run blockers. Sometimes. But when it came to pass blocking, they've always been trash, and they looked trash in this game as well. And Jeff Sims, again, made the most of it when he was in there and had some beautiful throws. And I just think when it comes to the situation right now with the offensive line where it's at and where it's going to be in this season, I might be on the Jeff Sims side now when it comes to who should start for Nebraska.
Yeah, I'll stick with Casey just because I still think he's a baller, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised.
If we had Trey Palmer still, I mean, without a doubt, Casey has the better long ball. I mean, I think we already saw that now, even with Sims, even just having a few of them. And we know how good Casey's long ball is, but we don't have that guy this year. Unless Xavier Betts is saving it for the season, we genuinely don't have that guy this year, or maybe Malachi Coleman. But if they aren't that guy, then we might not even have the chance to throw those deep balls this year with guys open. And so it's like Jeff Sims might just be the better option.
I still have hope that we can at least hide some of our other offensive linemen throughout the season for it to be like passable.
Yeah.
Where Casey's going to have time. Again, and we do see Casey again, like he is still strong in the pocket and like confident, and like obviously he's willing to take those hits to get those yards. But yeah, obviously without Trey Palmer we looked worse, but I do think that the running, some of the different schemes, I still think that Casey can look really nice in this offense even without. And so I still, it'll be a really close battle.
I mean, yeah, this is going to be something to talk about up until literally week 1. So, yeah. I mean, it's going to be fun to say the least.
Probably after week 1.
Right. So, the only other thing maybe worth mentioning was the usage of some of the other tight ends. We didn't see too much of Thomas Fidone. Just a few plays, a few snaps that was a little bit involved.
Looked good on the block he had.
Yeah, I mean, he looked all right and looked pretty good out there. The questionable thing was Eric Gilbert and his dropped passes, because those were ugly.
Yeah,
but
that was
this
tough.
man, he's got huge. A man's body, though. Holy, he is huge.
Yeah, the dude is jacked. I mean, yeah, the one like where the ball just bounced off his hands, like on the 3rd and 8, was a little tough. Yeah. You hate to see that. But I'm guessing, again, I didn't watch him enough like in between the blocks as much, but I'm sure it'll look good. So I'm holding out hope for Gilbert again, and
first catch. Right.
Maybe the timing was off. Maybe, like he's still learning stuff. So
agreed. Maybe, if he even plays this season, which we don't even know at this point. Yeah, so with the thing. Well. So I guess the only other thing we didn't fully finalize was the running backs. I mean, Gabe Ervin got the start and the first carry of the game, and he ended up having that beautiful touchdown run with the stiff arm on Omar Brown, stuffed him into the dirt, and that was hype worthy. That was awesome. And
best run of the game for sure.
Not to mention on that fumble where Hardberg got lit up and it was returned for a touchdown, which ended up not being a touchdown because if they would have reviewed it, wouldn't have been. Anyway, long story short, Ervin tracked the dude down who returned it for a touchdown. Like, he was hustling out there. So you got to respect that.
High motor.
But I mean, okay, Ervin, Ramir Johnson, Anthony Grant, AJ Allen. We didn't get to see a lot of AJ Allen in this game. It looks like they were still trying to work him back, a little bit hesitant from the injury last season. But he started that first drive on the red team and looked good. Caught a pass, made a nice run. Thoughts on this running back group? It feels really deep.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really hard for one of them to just separate themselves as the season goes on. I mean, they all seem pretty worthy. And again, they've all seen about similar time in these last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Again, because it's kind of been a carousel. Like, nobody has been able to just kind of fight that battle of attrition to stay fully healthy. So, I mean, I think it's really interesting. Grant ran it the most times. He didn't look the best, but he did look the best in pass protection. Again, he can still kind of do too much. We saw that a couple times from him, even in the spring game.
Oh, my word.
Where he's just trying
annoying
to force stuff. It's like, just get those yards. I think that's something
he thinks he's Reggie Bush.
Can be learned. I think it can be learned. But again, like, he just always wants to make that extra play. It's just so hard in the Big Ten. To do that, and even against our defense as well. Ramir looked good as well. That was exciting to see. Ran some good routes, had some good runs. I also think he had some of the best blocks as well. Like, I think that, I don't know, whatever was working, the block package. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a really close battle. And I think
gut reaction. Where are you at with them? If you were the coach, how would you rank the depth chart?
Again, from what we've heard, and plus we saw Gabe Ervin, I think it's like Gabe Ervin, Anthony Grant. I still think could be a really good 1-2 punch. And I think Ramir Johnson is still solid situationally. And I don't know if, I mean, I'm not sure on AJ Allen too. So
right, that's what I'm saying though, because you saw it last year with Allen. The potential's there. It depends on the injury and the comeback from the injury.
Yeah.
If we get Allen from last year, I think he might be the best running back. But the question is, are we going to get him AJ Allen from last year? Based off of the current film we have, Ervin looks like the most balanced option. And Anthony Grant just annoys me. I'll be honest. The more we see him run, the more I'm annoyed by Anthony Grant. I mean, I think I would go Ervin, Allen, Grant, Johnson as my 4 deep.
Yeah, so we both agree that maybe probably Gabe's starter at this point.
Probably, yeah. So defensively, lots of interesting things here. We did see the 3-3-5 out in play, and there's a lot to take in. So
holy smokes.
Take us where you'd like to take us. What are your thoughts on this defense?
Yeah, no, there's just so much. Obviously, a lot of it was similar to a little bit similar up on the front defensive line. If we start there on the front, where we see
that was the big question.
Yeah, we see a lot of, 3 guys, down stance, and, one guy kind of just hybrid, that linebacker, that outside. And again, it is tricky. It looks confusing to the defense. I like that we were aggressive. Tony White was definitely blitzing a lot of times. We were sending guys. And I think that's going to be really fun. And we didn't even really see anything crazy where it's like we're sending safeties or we're sending corners. It was really just all linebackers or the defensive, or the D line, which we were sending.
So there were 6 of them going there. A lot.
Exactly. I'll be excited to see what happens when that stuff gets mixed in. So it was still pretty vanilla, I think, even though we were seeing some of that blitzing. But I love it. He thought it was run. He was calling a blitz. And I think that's a blast. I love playing football like that. And again, even when it wasn't, we had a lot of guys in that backfield and it was a lot of single man stuff. And, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But I do think it's a lot of fun. I think that Prince Will Umanamillion, he looks super good.
Nice.
Thank you. Yeah, he looked super good. 3 tackles for loss and included a sack. He looked like an absolute unit out there. So on the D line, I thought he would definitely shine for a freshman.
Dude.
Again. So I was really impressed with some of the plays that he made.
No, the pursuit on Sims and that tackle for loss in that first drive was beautiful. And then was that the same first drive or maybe the second drive when he shed the pull block of Newly and stuffed Anthony Grant? It was like, my word, like this guy's a true freshman.
Nice.
Like,
yeah, it was nice. Very athletic.
I was extremely skeptical going into this. Like, all right, we're going to really have true freshmen out there. But I'll be honest, it's like they look like a real a real college player. And, he was doing that on our starting offensive line. So, I mean, maybe not the best sign for our offensive line, but at least looks like Prince Will should be a contributing player this season.
Yeah, from what we saw, 100%. I mean, obviously, too, like we have some of our D-line hurt.
Right, Ty Robinson, yeah.
Yeah. We'd heard a lot about Wynn doing some good things in spring ball, and he looked solid as well on the D-line. He had a bunch of tackles and blew up some plays.
Block. Or tipped pass.
Yeah. I think that's good. I think he can really be unlocked. Obviously, he's just a solid player from last year. And we kind of saw it where he didn't get a lot of start to begin the season. He was kind of buried on the depth chart. He kind of worked his way up. And as the season went on, he was kind of meh. I don't know if that was injury or what that was, because for a few games stretch there, he looked really good last season and then just kind of fell off. So I think that there is definitely potential with him because we've seen good games out of him inside of last season. So, I kind of like that. And Prince will look good on the D-line.
I mean, literally 3 true freshmen. Prince Will, Cameron Lenhart, and Maverick Noonan all were contributors, and they looked good. And then we saw, the transfers coming through with Elijah Judy, MJ Sherman, Chief Borders as well. Like, they all looked solid. I mean, I wouldn't say any of them made, like, huge plays that were, like, shocking. But I was overall, I would say, pleasantly surprised by the performance of the defensive line. And Elijah Judy's a lot bigger than I thought he was.
Yeah, and he was big.
Yeah, and then MJ Sherman seemed like he had a little bit of juice there. So I'm feeling a little bit better about the defensive line than I was before.
Do you think the D-line, like having some solid performances, tells us more about the D-line or more about the O-line?
I think that's
the real question. I'm leaning more toward it tells us more about the O-line, sadly.
I mean,
but I do think there was some good plays in there individually. Again, Prince Will for me, was and Wynn looked pretty solid. I'm still
Wynn
very concerned.
Made some great plays.
I'm still very concerned as a whole. Like if all of these freshmen, all the glorified high schoolers are really shining on some of these bets, or maybe they're just super athletic. We will find out.
I mean, at the end of the day, what I was just making sure I wanted to see was like if Sherman and Borders and Elijah Judy were like respectable players that weren't just going to be like, ghosts out there. And I think they're respectable players. And also I watched MJ Sherman's press conference. That dude is a vibe. All right. So I just want to say this guy could be like the leader of leaders. He's awesome. And I'm here for MJ Sherman to be a great player because I want that to happen. Long story short, I think the defensive line, if you have MJ Sherman, you have Nash Hutmacher, Ty Robinson is probably the 3 out there. At least that's my gut feeling right now. And then you have like Chief Borders and Jamari Butler kind of playing the other linebacker position. Then, I mean, it's all right. I think that's okay. It's not going to be the world beaters. Like you're not going to have that standout pass rusher.
Needs to drop a couple pounds, to be honest. I think Nash
I could see that.
Weight.
I'm with you. But I mean, overall, what are your thoughts? Do you feel like do you walk away from this game a little bit more optimistic?
Yeah, I mean, I think the defense again. There's just I'll be excited to just kind of keep watching some of this back, to be honest, and just really taking in more as what we keep going. But I think it's a lot of fun. And I do like that it's new and it's different. I think that they pick guys that like some of those freshmen and young guys that can kind of fit their system of what they're looking for. So that's kind of exciting. I think they really know what they want out of those athletes. And I think that's going to play to our favor in the defense.
So the question from last year was, can you replace Garrett Nelson and Oshaun Mathis and Caleb Tannor, the 3 pass rushers, with production in other places on the field to make up for the defensive performance? Like maybe our pass rush isn't as good.
I think scheme can cover a lot.
Scheme and experience in the secondary. Can that make up for the loss of the pass rush?
So. I think we can be respectable. Again, I really do.
So,
and I like the guy, how many guys in the box. Again, we get killed on the run, like especially in the second half. And I think that if we do have a lot of bodies and we're flowing a lot of people into this system where there is a lot of movement and rotation, and if we keep fresh legs, I think this can really help us late in the season, late in the games.
I agree.
And I think it'll be a lot of fun. Again, and I do think our secondary will still be solid enough.
If not, it could be decent,
good, or it could be good, or it could be good. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. So like, that's why I think now that I'm seeing these guys in motion here and thinking about, how much production did we actually lose with Garrett Nelson and Oshaun Mathis? Like, it wasn't like a ton, but it's something that I think is replaceable enough, especially if we have improvement in the secondary and better scheming and possibly a better defensive coordinator as well, which seems likely. And so I'm fairly optimistic. The Kool-Aid is flowing over here right now.
Yeah. I just feel like we looked a little bit more like a college football team. I feel like we kind of elevated in some ways.
I agree.
And
my only worry is if I'm being deceived by the speed at which the coaches let the players play in the spring game with the tackling of the quarterbacks and all these things. Like, it was an actual football game, like, which is why it was actually fun to watch all the way through.
Yeah, and I feel like we learned a lot more.
Right, and then that allowed us to learn a lot more. So I'm wondering if that's why we're just going to get deceived by the real football, or if there's actually something here. But I lean towards there actually is something here.
I think so too. We're a team that was trending up last year. Again, once we started getting real coaching in as the season went on, we really started looking like a real football team.
We started tackling.
But still, like, even without Trey, which is a big loss, I do think that
I agree.
I think that there's a lot of good stuff to be had.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing on the defense is that Rhule said that, on the defensive line, they want to be running 2 or 3 hockey lines on the defensive line throughout this season. So they really see most of these guys as pretty interchangeable, which I think makes sense based off of who we have right now. And so play to our strengths of staying fresh and those types of things, I think makes sense overall. The other thing Rhule said is that right now, they're not really looking to bring in anyone else. Like, it's not like a priority for them to bring in more guys in the transfer portal. We'll see if that actually ends up being true.
Yeah, I'm sure if the right guy comes calling,
exactly
it'll happen.
So drop all of your
Manning just wants to transfer over,
Yes. So drop all your comments down below. We want to hear your guys' biggest takeaway from the spring game and your bet on who's the quarterback. Sims, Casey Thompson, and where you're at with it right now, what you do if you're the coach. But as always, guys, I'm Josh. That's Caleb. This has been Backseat Sports, and we will see you next time.
Go Big Red.
Big Red.